Today we are going to read The Masked Murderer 4, The History of the Mask. Let's begin. Chapter 1, The Birth of the Mask. Thousands of years ago, the Aztecs made a mask. How the mask was made was always unknown to the general public. Stone was used to make the carvings within the mask. Metal and wood was used to make the mask itself. The mask was made to trap a person's spirit. One day, a person who had a strong craving for justice, liberty, and hated those who opposed those ideals, he was wronged by his brother. As a result, he was sentenced to life within the mask. But somehow there was another mask made just about the same time. This mask had the same stone carvings and the same materials and substances, but different in the way that it had for each imbued and valuable jewel a socket. The sockets imbued with their king god as Toka, who was a very good yet bad god, but the mask imbued with such a spirit depends on the person wearing it, is good or bad. The special stones each represent the following elements: water, fire, nature, astral, infinity, space, wind, light, and darkness. The god imbued was the gold within the mask. Or that's at least how the Aztecs said it. But when the Aztec civilization eventually failed, they locked away the original mask up in the secret tomb hidden from the normal eye. However, the other mask was hidden within the ruins, untouched, with the imbued stone still intact, along with as Toka, and so the mask was at full power for any who found it. Chapter 2, Babylon and Assyria. In 1800 BC, Babylon arose. Their powerful army fought both the Akkadians and the Sumerians, and won, with the help of the Mask of Domination. After the main ruler lost the mask in 1750 BC, the Babylonians started to decline and lose power. However, in 800 BC, the Assyrians moved into Mesopotamia, which was Babylon, and found the mask in 586 BC. The Assyrians tried to defeat King Nebuchadnezzar, who eventually stole the mask, marking the great loss of Assyria. Stealing the mask from Assyria's main ruler allowed King Nebuchadnezzar to win, slaughter, defeat, and plunder the Assyrians. But in addition, the Mask of Domination allowed King Nebuchadnezzar to capture Jerusalem. But in 562 BC, hi, cutie. The park said, "Hi, cutie." Oh, hi. 7 people. Let's go. King Nebuchadnezzar let the mask elude him, and he died. Chapter 3, The Rise of Persia. Cyrus in 532 BC found the Mask of Domination and held it from 530 BC to 330 BC. What are we reading? I'm reading The Masked Murderer Collection, which is a story I wrote in high school. Making the Persian Empire win many battles and dominate the Middle East, until the mask disappeared from the Persians' hands and landed in another soon-to-be historical figure's hands. Chapter 4, Greece and its Glory Days. The Persian was Philip II of Macedon. After conquering Persia in a great struggle for power, used the Mask of Domination to establish the Grecian Empire. After he did this, he died in 326 BC, giving his son Alexander the Great. Why are we reading this? Because I love to. That's why. I hope you guys love it too a little bit. Alexander the Great was the most powerful and famous king of Greece, and he wanted to unify the world under one government. But in 298 BC, he lost the Mask of Domination and died of a fever. Chapter 5, The Beginning of Rome's Victories. With the help of the Mask of Domination in 264 BC to 149 BC, Rome was able to gloriously win all 3 Punic Wars. The first war with Carthage, Rome defeated them by using a plank to hook the ships together. The Second War was a very difficult win for Rome. Hannibal's army surprised the Romans by marching across Spain over the Pyrenees to the foot of the Alps. This shocked the Romans, forcing them to cross the Mediterranean and attack Carthage in the north, Africa, forcing them to cross the Mediterranean to abandon and allow Rome to destroy most of its navy, thus further delaying its plans on attacking and conquering Rome. In the third and last Punic War, Carthage foolishly attacked an ally of Rome. Because of this, the last Punic War was known as Carthage Desperate Assault. Rome retaliated to such foolishness by successfully and swiftly cutting off food supplies to Carthage, and many Carthaginians starved to death. Then Rome burned Carthage to the ground, as an example to those who would try to conquer Rome. And to those who were foolish enough to do so, they also sold Carthage people into slavery. Legend says that Rome covered Carthage ground with salt so nothing would grow again. Carthage was no more. Chapter 6: Division and the End of the Roman Republic. In 110 BC, the plebeians, common people not wealthy, and the tribunes, persons who protected the rights of the common people, wanted reform. Patricians, people who owned land or lands and helped the ruler govern, hated such an idea. Eventually, however, military generals took power. Marius, an army general, formed an army of the poor. His army, with the help of the Macedonian domination at the time, won many victories in North Africa and Gaul. His soldiers eventually became, because of his many victories, became more loyal and loyal to him. Distancing themselves more and more from the Roman Republic itself. But this would not last, for while Marius was sleeping, a man stole the mask of domination and got out without anyone seeing him. In 88 BC, the man was Louis Sulla's father, who on his deathbed gave it the mask, saying, "Son, you may be just a man for now, but your destiny is so much greater. You will soon be a famed army general because I stole this legendary artifact, which I believe gave Marius and other army generals such an upper hand." But Marius, are you ready to face your ultimate destiny and rule Rome? Louis Sulla replied, "Yes, father. Marius will surely fall, and I will rule Rome." And with that, Louis Sulla's father died at a ripe old age. Louis Sulla then proceeded with the mask of domination in his hands. He challenged Marius's power, and a civil war ensued. Even with the mask of domination in Louis Sulla's hands, countless thousands died before Louis Sulla defeated Marius. After this, Louis Sulla made himself dictator. Usually by law, dictators only had power for 6 months. But Louis Sulla threw out this law so he could rule longer. At this point, military generals continued to rule Rome until 27 BC. Louis Sulla, however, eventually was overthrown in 74 BC through 3 men organized a militia known as Rome's true heirs and soldiers. These 3 men were Crassus, a wealthy politician, and 2 army generals, Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar. Louis Sulla quickly organized an army to battle the militia. Louis Sulla's army was vast, but in 71 BC, Julius Caesar had already stolen the mask of domination and led the militia himself. Even though they were outnumbered, and led the militia himself with Pompey the Great, and Crassus was the main strategist for the militia. Crassus knew that they were outnumbered, and even with the great determination and desire to save Rome, it would butcher many thousands on both sides. And even with a great tactics already planned by Crassus himself, he knew that he had to destroy Louis Sulla's military power and support once and for all. As the whole militia was ready to attack, Crassus said, "Stop! We are better than this. We are not uncivilized barbarians. Let me use wise words to destroy Louis Sulla's power. Julius Caesar thought about it and replied, "Very well." As this was said, Pompey the Great interrupted and said, "Why trust him? Words can't do as much destruction as military strength can." Julius said, "Silence! We shall do this and see what Crassus can do." Pompey the Great replied, "Very well." And so Crassus, "Yo, it's Megabolt. It is. What's up?" Crassus came and said, "Why should you, sons and daughters of Rome, allow such a man to throw out a Roman law and rule longer? Is he doing this for you? No, I have no idea. He just wanted more power and to rule longer. Plus, it was his personal wish to ultimately rule Rome longer. Do you want such a man to push you around, or do you want 3 rulers for the good of Rome?" The vast army shouted back, "You're right! Down with the rule of Louis Sulla!" And with that, Louis Sulla lost power and was killed by his own men. Years later, in 60 BC, these 3 men agreed to rule Rome together. They were Julius Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey. It lasted less than a decade. Julius Caesar, who still had domestic domination, wanted more power, so he marched his army to the Rubicon River between Gaul and Italy, winning the power. Julius Caesar now had more power than the Senate. Fearing this would be the end of the Republic. The Senate had Julius Caesar assassinated, and they then gave the mask to Lepidus. In 44 BC, Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus divided the Roman Empire. Octavian ruled the west, Mark Antony ruled the east, and Lepidus ruled North Africa. When Lepidus retired, passing on the mask of domination to Octavian, Mark and Octavian fought for power. Hi, Brianna, what's up? Chapter 7: The Roman Empire from beginning to end. Mark Antony formed an alliance with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. Octavian, the one with the mask of domination, declared war on them. Fearing this and the mask's ability to conquer many lands, they committed suicide. Rome then defeated Egypt in 27 BC. The Roman Republic had ended, and for the next 500 years, emperors ruled Rome. Octavian, now known as Augustus Caesar, became the emperor of Rome in 378 AD. Rome gave the mask of domination to the Visigoths and let them move within the Roman Empire. The Visigoths promised not to bring weapons, and Rome promised them land, but neither side really kept to their promises. The Visigoths, who wielded the mask of domination, finally defeated Rome at the Battle of Adrianople in 455 AD. Another Germanic tribe, the Vandals, came in and destroyed most of Rome's beauty. In AD 476, Odoacer, a German leader, took control of Rome. Rome had fallen. Chapter 8: The Mask of Domination in the Hands of Europe. In AD 800, one king with the mask of domination in his hands became strong enough to unite all of Western Europe. His name was Charlemagne, or Charles the Great. First, he defeated the other Germanic tribes, then he united them under one religion, Roman Catholicism. I'm doing great, Brianna. How are you doing? Charles the Great fought against his enemies and won. Because of this, the Pope, known as Leo III, what are we reading, G? I am reading the Masked Murderer collection, a collection I made in high school. Let's see. Crowned Leo III crowned him Emperor of the Romans. However, when Charles the Great lost the mask of domination, I wouldn't say I'm an author, just not a famous one, not yet. emperor of the Romans. However, when Charles the Great lost the Macedonian domination, died with his rule, ended civil war was about to engulf Europe, and invaders threatened his kingdom. Chapter 9. Europe under Viking tyranny. In AD 835, the Macedonian domination resurfaced into the hands of the Vikings and continued for over 100 years. The Vikings invaded Europe in AD 1016. A Viking named Cnut became the ruler of England. In AD 1042, Edward the Confessor became king. When the Macedonian domination slipped from Edward's hands, Edward died after the next three men claimed they were king. They went to war. William, the Duke of Normandy, the next wearer of the Macedonian domination, fought against the two others at the Battle of Hastings. In AD 1066, William, the Duke of Normandy, won the Battle of Hastings, but however, the Macedonian domination disappeared from William's hands. Julian Central. Hey there. Chapter 10. Muslim victories over the Crusaders. In 1095 AD, Pope Urban II called for a crusade for almost 200 years from AD 1096 to AD 1291. European crusaders fought in 4 big crusades, but could not win. In 1291 AD, I support you and I love your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The Muslims and their leader Saladin, who was wearing the Macedonian domination, conquered Arch, the last Palestinian city. Saladin, who was wearing the Macedonian domination, conquered and his Muslim army held control of Palestine until modern times. However, the Macedonian domination slipped back into Europe's hands. Chapter 11. The defeat of the Spanish Armada. In 1588, the Spanish Armada of 130 ships sailed for England for an attempt to conquer it. However, the English had the power of the Macedonian domination. They defeated the Spanish, only half of the Spanish Navy returned. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying my videos are very great. Thank you. Anyways, Spain returned to Spain in 1598. Philip II died. In the next few centuries, England and France became the two most powerful nations in Europe. Chapter 12. France and England go to war. England's King Charles IV declared war on France. It lasted 20 days. That's how it became known as the 20-Day War. France defended its country with a powerful army. England's army, however, had no fear. After 20 days, it was a stalemate. The war had devastated both sides. France's leader, Lucien II, and England's King Charles IV met to discuss a treaty. This treaty was called Cessez-le-Feu, which means ceasefire in French. I've seen almost all your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. The English offered the Macedonian domination in exchange. The French would not invade their country. The treaty was agreed, and so the French walked away with the Macedonian domination. Chapter 13. For America! In May 1775, the colonial representatives met again and gave George Washington a mask called the Mask of Change, and then an army he would command. However, it still seemed the colonial army's efforts and numbers were in vain. Thinking they were at a disadvantage, the colonial army almost disbanded. But George Washington gave an impassioned speech. He said, "Men and women of freedom, liberty, and justice for all. For too long has Great Britain refused our right to be a nation. A light to show that even a rebellion can succeed if its cause is just and right. We are not merely slaves to another nation to be trampled on. No. We are for the people because people are people. And if this means seceding from Great Britain, then so be it. For America." See ya. I'm going to watch your videos. Thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, the army held true to its commander, George Washington. In 1777, the colonial army won an important, have a good one, an important army at Saratoga. Because of this, French sent soldiers to help the colonists. In 1778, Spain declared war on Great Britain. Can you be my friend? Sure, yeah. I don't see why not. The colonial army rushed southward to Yorktown, Virginia. Here, the British army, led by General Cornwallis, was trapped after all these events. In 1783, they signed a treaty. The American Revolution had ended. Chapter 14, Napoleon's Rise to Power. It was 1791 when a man named Napoleon fought for the King of France as his most trusted general. He was only 14, drafted because of his great talent for solving military problems. He fought all of France's enemies with the king's army he commanded. However, in 1801, after Napoleon came and challenged the king of France to a fencing duel, the king accepted, and so the fencing duel ensued. 15 minutes passed and Napoleon won. However, he accidentally struck the king of France in the heart, piercing him with such a wound. The king breathed his last and said, "You will soon unite France, and some will oppose you." And with that, the king had died. However, when the king's guard arrived, they saw their king dead with Napoleon about to jump out the window. The captain of the king's guard yelled, "You traitor!" Napoleon's last words were, "I will soon lead France." And with that, he jumped out, making a great escape. Eventually resurfaced the scene when the time was right. In 1804, with the power of Damascus domination and great military skill, he had risen to power. By taking the crown from Pope Pius VII, proclaiming himself Emperor of France. He tried to take over Great Britain, but the British Navy stopped trading ships from entering France and other ports. This angered many neutral countries, turning them against France. In 1812, Napoleon gathered a massive army of 500,000 men to invade Russia. Only 40,000 men returned. In 1814, Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Australia, with great plenty of military strength, eventually captured Paris, the capital of France, with heavy resistance from the French, but nothing they could not handle. I have to go. Bye. Have a good one. You too. Have a good one. Napoleon had lost his power and was exiled to an island called Elba. The brother of Louis XIV became the king of France. Meanwhile, Napoleon cursed the Damascus domination for not giving him a military victory on those who captured Paris. When they were on the island of Elba, the Damascus domination spoke, saying, "Napoleon, hear me out. I did not give you victory because on this very island you will learn that defeat is a learning experience to the great path of victory. But I will tell you this, I am not the only mask out there. There is another, but you must not ask me further on this matter. Instead, you must find a book titled The Deep Secrets of the Aztecs and pass it on to a boy named Philip Churchill. I don't care how you do, just let it be done. Do we have an agreement?" Napoleon replied, "Very well." In 1815, Napoleon escaped from Elba and returned to France, claiming to be emperor. The French king quickly got word and sent his army to attack Napoleon. Napoleon asked these men that they really wished to kill their emperor. The men cried out, "Long live the emperor!" Napoleon was once again the hero of France. His army finally met the combined army of Prussia and Britain at Waterloo. Napoleon was defeated once again and exiled for a second time. He died at 52, with the mask of domination disappearing once again. Chapter 15, Lincoln and the Civil War. In 1860, Lincoln won the election, becoming the 16th president of the United States. However, trouble arose when Lincoln won. Many northern states thought the South were full of empty words. But in 1861, many southern states seceded from the Union. After this would cause the terrible events known as only as the Civil War. 4 terrible years this war lasted, and there was many bloodshed, brother against brother, fought for what they believed in, whether it was slavery or freedom. 23 states were still loyal to the Union, while 11 states were now a confederacy. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln made the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves from the chains of their owners. This further angered the South. Finally, the war ended at the huge Battle of Gettysburg, in which the Union and the Confederacy won and the Confederacy surrendered. The Confederacy and slavery was no more. Chapter 16, Escobar Chavez, the Bane of Mexico. In the early 1900s, a Mexican dictator named Escobar Chavez rose to power. He was a very cruel and vicious person. Some called him the Beast of Mexico. He founded and wore the mask of domination. He wanted to conquer the known world. This would not last. His son Escobar Chavez Jr. saw the evil of his father. He rose up in rebellion, eventually gathering many followers. Eventually, he would have an army at his command. 3 battles were waged for Mexico's freedom. Why Mexico? Because that was the last place the mask of domination would be. One of the last people that would wear it. The historical people would wear it. That's why. Anyways, the enemy's armies, they say God communicated to him, saying that the weakness was the mask of domination. Cut that off, and their victories would not last. I am not. No, I am not. This is just in the story, though. Began another rebel war campaign on his father. This time he had many victories. He eventually cut off the supplies to the enemy army, eventually rooting them out of Chavez City as far as the capital of Mexico itself, Mexico City. However, Escobar Chavez was very angry about this. This time he marshaled enough troops as vast as sands on the seashore. He eventually put the mask of domination down, thinking he could win. Without it, he was wrong. While the vast army was trying to take back Chavez City, a great detachment of the rebel army led by General Escobar II, the brother of Escobar Chavez Jr., was heading to capture Mexico City. Stayed back with the rest of his army, saying he'd rather defend his homeland than give it to fuel Escobar Chavez's reign of terror. A big bloody battle ensued for the capital of Mexico. As the battle was going on, Grand Strategist Raul Chavez saw that he was wrong in supporting his brother. The war ended with the Grand Strategist Raul Chavez chopping off the head of his brother. Finally, the vast army surrendered. Shortly after, a treaty was signed between the rebel army and the remnants of the dictator's army. The Grand Strategist signed the treaty in his brother's blood. After that, threw his brother's head into the Gulf of Mexico. The body, along with the mask of domination, was sealed in a cave, and for a long time, Mexico was free. Epilogue. And so the mask of domination was sealed in the cave. However, the 4 greatest archangels, Raphael, Uriel, Gabriel, and Michael, they cursed the mask, so that way the mask of domination could not rise to the heavens. And so it became known as the cursed mask of domination. The end. Alright then, well, that's the end of the story. Thank you so much for tuning in. You all have a good one. Thank you.